Hey everyone, welcome to Rick's 135th Scale Models. My name is Rick. Today we're going to be looking at a project I did a while back, and that is building and painting the amusing hobby Abrams X. Now this model came out about a year ago. I actually did this build about a year ago and just haven't had time to put the video out, but that's on me. So here's the video. Now, I will say up front, the idea here was to build it as it was seen at the trade shows. And that was the gray with the highlights black and the blue with the Abrams X logos on it. And it was a commission build, and the person commissioning me wanted me to do it as it was seen there. So it's pristine, it's clean, there's no weathering, there's no detail, it's immaculate as it would have been at the trade show. So that's the look I was going for here. But like I said, it went together great. I do like the model. I think it was a really nice job. It's a pretty simple model, but there's a lot of fun building it and a lot of things to watch for to make it look nice. But anyway, let's get started and see how it goes.
Okay, so diving into the model, straightforward. Is not a lot of parts. You look at the actual vehicle, it doesn't have all the equipment on the outside and a lot of those extra details. So most of it's just the injection molding process. Basically going through taking the tin snips and getting all the parts off and cleaned up so that we get a good solid fit and finish. So the lower hull is basically three parts. You've got the top, the bottom, and the rear, and then some small detail parts on the back end. A little bit of confusion there. If you take the parts and get them prepped, you'll see it goes together real simple. From there, starting to work on the undercarriage and the suspension system for this. Uh, Nothing moves on it. It's a solid model without any movable parts, but they do go together straightforward and in good alignment. So sometimes you build these things and you'll see all the parts kind of are all over the place. So when you set up the road wheels, they're all up and down and not in alignment. This wasn't that case in this model at all. Now, once you get the suspension assembled, it does ask you to put the road wheels on at this stage. The biggest thing, like I said, these went together in a good alignment. There wasn't any issues, but still make sure that all your is leveled like I'm doing here. That way you don't have an issue in the end. Even with the movable suspension system, you've got to make sure that everything lines up properly. So just a little bit of extra effort here and you'll have a perfect sitting vehicle. Now, although it wasn't problematic, the road wheels themselves have several extra parts. You've got the rubber, and then there's little side rings you have to install. The biggest thing with the side rings is they're very fragile, so you had to make sure they're cleaned up properly. Quite a few sprue pieces to get cut off and then sanded smooth. Because this is going to be a show piece, it's going to be in pristine condition, so I really had to make sure that I didn't create any damage in this process that a lot of times you can cover up with just wear and tear if you add that. And once I had all the parts cleaned up, it was a matter of going through, organizing it, and then start the gluing process. Like I said, lots of parts. They go together. There's a little bit of a key system in there, but it wasn't real complicated at all. Now, one of the things I noticed with the amusing hobby plastic, especially this brown stuff, it's very brittle. Now, since building this model, I've gotten some better quality snips, which completely changed everything. But prior to that, I was using these snips and kind of went about it totally wrong. It ended up causing lots of breakage and that. So when you go to clean up all these parts for the tracks, you're going to really need to have a good quality set of snips, or you're going to have nothing but trouble. One of the ideas I did try, which was rather foolish, was cutting them here. Like I said, a good pair of snips. I solved this problem easily. This did work, but it created a lot more cleanup issues, and it just really didn't go well. Completely err on my fault, but I figured I'd be honest about learning the hard way on how to go about this. Yeah, after fighting with this at this point and not being real happy with how it was progressing, I decided to go back to assembling the model. This is going through all the front end parts of the lower hull, the headlight system, and that. Other than the track part, I was still very happy with the model and the progress. Nice quality, everything's going together flawlessly. Like with all models, just make sure you have all the flashing and all that cleaned off real good when you go to assemble it, and you'll get a real good fit and results. Still continuing building all the undersides of the lower hull. A lot of this is going to be covered up by the side skirts, but they do have really nice detail. Some of the mounting brackets here and different little specialized parts. Really sharp kit. These are all the supports for the side skirts that hang. Now I did jump ahead a little bit here. I wanted to assemble the 30 millimeter that sits on the top of the turret. I had assembled parts of the turret. Absolutely nothing unique here in the building process. Just getting everything set up on that. The two different scopes that sit up there, all the smoke launchers, the trophy system, very uneventful assembly process, went together flawlessly with zero issues. Now, when it came time to assemble the gun that sits on the roof, the 30 millimeter, you had a couple options here. You could do a plastic barrel or the metal with the resin tip. This was a lot nicer looking, the metal and the resin. A little bit of cleanup. The one thing to understand though is the resin they use is very, very, very fragile. I mean, I can't say that enough. I had to be very careful. It was very brittle. Immaculate, sharp design, but you don't want to start messing with it too much, or it will shatter on you. Now, the model itself has, for the barrel, two options also. You can do a plastic one, or you can do a metal one, and the metal one is a lot nicer looking. If you use a metal one, though, make sure that you haven't done too much sanding on the elevation part of the barrel, or it will droop down and not sit up because of the weight of the barrel itself. But it is immaculate, nice looking, high quality, and a lot better quality than the resin, or I'm sorry, the styrene. The styrene looks accurate also, but you'll just get better results with the metal because there's no parts to sand for the seams or anything. The metal barrel also has the resin tip. Once again, this is just like the one for the 30 millimeter. It's very fragile, but it has absolutely superb quality. So I would use it for sure. Just be very careful you don't break it. Now it's time to start the assembly process of the tracks. So they had a jig and different ways to do it. I ended up working best just doing it this way and using a fine tip to put the glue in the center area so it still functions, but yet it doesn't fall apart. Um, this worked out fine. I didn't have any challenges. It's just making sure I didn't bump anything and go through the delicate process of laying it out. A little bit of time here, but once it was all assembled, I always like this look. It's much nicer than just your standard rubber band tracks. So honestly, assembling the tracks took longer than building the whole model itself with all the different parts. But like I said, once it's done, it looks great. It's just a lot of time here. Okay, so once everything was assembled and ready to be painted, I had all the parts separated accordingly for the painting process. I started priming it. Now, I went back and forth on different ways, which color to prime it with, and decided to go with the black. For this, I thought it would give a better results for all the seams and everything. And so I started the priming process. I'm using Mr. Hobby's primer. I find this to be a very adequate adhesion to the styrene and the metal parts. Uh, they have different colors depending on what you're using and the results you want, but this works out just fine. After it was primed, it was time to start the painting process. So it's just because it's a show piece, I'm not looking for any fading or any issues like that. So I'm just doing a real nice, solid, even coat, making sure I get every other as much as accurately as possible. I'm not looking for any, like I said, weathering effect here. This is supposed to be as seen at a show, so it should be pristine and clean and ready for demonstration for resale and advertising purposes from the company. Then it was time to paint the black on the side skirts. Now, what I ended up doing here is there's rubber on the bottom and then there's the metal. So I painted the rubber black and then I taped off that weird pattern they had, the zigzag, and then gave it a second coat. The idea there was to possibly create almost a hint of a two-tone so that the differences in the finish might show. It really didn't work out that well. It was a neat idea, but didn't quite come up. Then just a little bit of touching up here I'm doing, and then from there, it's a matter of getting ready to do the rest of the painting. Next, I installed the road wheels in preparation to install the side skirts. As you can see, the road wheels go on. They've got it designed where they might be able to make them turn. I didn't go about that. I just put them in here and then glued the caps on the ends. But that was their idea behind the whole theory. Next, I had to clean off all the masking material from the sights because they're clear for the 30 millimeter. What I like to do is use a toothbrush to kind of loosen it and then use a toothpick or something similar to clean it all up. Once it's cleaned up, do a little bit of touching up and then start the rest of the painting process. Now the 30 millimeter on the roof is one of the most predominant pieces of the model itself. So you definitely have to spend some time doing all the touch up and painting it nicely. There is quite a lot of color up here as far as the main color of the vehicle, but the details, little black parts and things like that. So going through also all these sighting systems aren't just black. So you're going to have to make sure that you look at the colors on them and paint accordingly with some kind of a clear, like a smoke or something similar. The only other thing that I didn't mention earlier is before you glue this all together, make sure you paint the insides of these, as the plastic is a light gray that will show through and give it kind of a bad look. I had painted them before I glued them together, but I didn't show that part. Now, similarly is looking at the tail lights and the headlights that go on. Now, you're going to need to uh, prime and paint them since they're clear. Parts that are painted, you have to paint over. What I like to do is I paint the back side of the tail lights red so that the shiny lens is on the outside, and then I just paint the perimeter of it with the whatever vehicle color it will be. On this one, it's the this light gray. Then I'm doing right here, priming up the headlight portion to be ready to paint those also that same light gray color. Also, it has turn signals, so I'm doing the backside coloring of that. That does create a nice look on the outside when you look at it, more accurate and realistic looking. And then as far as the headlights go, I just leave those clear, or maybe sometimes I'll hit them with a little bit of silver. Here, just finishing up all the touching up details, make sure it looks nice. And there are two sights on the roof. It's a similar process, cleaning them up and then starting all the painting and detail work. Lens isn't as clear as I'd like here in the closest, but you get the idea of what's going on. Very delicate work. Just take your time. The way the plastic sits, it gives you a little bit of an elevation, so it will lend nicely to painting. Uh, just make sure you get all the masking off, which I missed a part there. As I mentioned, there's quite a lot of detail painting on the main 30mm up on the roof. Here I'm going through the process of painting the barrel. You get a better idea here looking at the detail level of this part of the model. This part does not move, but it's just absolutely superb quality. Really lends nicely and adds a lot of detail and quality to the model itself. One of the interesting things about this vehicle and the showpiece was all the different details it had all over it, and then the extreme difference between the light gray and the black, and then the blue you'll see on the side skirt. I had to go through and paint all those little parts. Now, this was one of those other processes where you've got to make sure that you're doing it just right, because it's such a deep contrast that every little error will show really predominantly. Here's kind of a good close-up look at all the little detail parts. I've also painted the light blue on the sides, but you can really get an idea here of all the different little parts you have to paint, the camera systems, and how they really went about it. You can also see the non-skidding on the model itself and all these little details. Now, the only issue I have with this model is it had no decals, but I was thinking creatively and used my 3D design computer system and designed some stencils here, and then used some water slide paper and painted my own decals. Now, on my first run of these, when I made them, I kind of had to figure out how to paint it to where it would not overspray or underspray. Next thing is you've got to make sure that you seal them. If you don't, when you go to do the water slide, the paint just falls right off. Here I'm doing that. I'm hitting with a gloss to seal them up. The next thing was prepping the surface, and that's also spraying a gloss. That way the water slides decals will actually adhere. Also, when you do this, you want to make sure that you paint the entire model with this, or when you go back and do a flat coat or something, you'll end up with a two-tone weird look. So it's very important that you do everything in total, or you mess up your whole results. Now, here I'm going to install the decals. One of the things you're going to notice right off the bat is there are some subtle white areas that didn't get enough paint. Well, I came back and I touched that up lightly. The problem being is you can print decals using anything but white. White ink jet and all those different printers don't have, so that's why I had to create my own. but looking up close up, you can see every little imperfection. Once it was installed and cured, I then came back, like I said, did just a little bit of touching up, and it ended up being superb results. The other thing with making your own water slide decals, you can kind of get a hint of it there. You've got to make sure you cut off as much of the water slide clear material as possible so you get a better finish. There are different products out there. They're all fairly thick. It's the only thing I'm not real happy with, but if you use different products to lay it flat and smooth it, ones that do the contouring, it ends up working out just fine. So, but here I'm making sure I'm getting as much of the slide decal off before I do the installation process. And then I'm coming back and redoing it. I wasn't happy with the first run. But setting it up, prepping it, putting a little bit of the adhesion material that helps it kind of contour, and then laying it out. As you can see, this is a much better quality print than the first one I did. Trial and error, but that's the fun of the hobby.
So here's the finished product. I'm really happy with the overall results, the look I was looking for as seen at the trade show. The only difference here is I've simulated a drone launching on the back here. As far as I can discover, these are launched with something like compressed air, so I've simulated that effect here. You can see the two little antennas I've added here. You've got the 30mm, the different sights, all the little details it has here, the Abrams X underneath, on either side of the barrel, on either side of the fenders, the carbon fiber here, and the General Dynamics logo on the front here. Looking at the sides, you can see how I did the zigzagging on the side skirts. You've got the sensors for the trophy system. Looking at the tail lights, the rear grille, the camera system in the back. The other trophy system sits back here with this sensor. You've got your standard Abrams sensor system here that they all have. Working your way to the other side, similar look as the other. You've got the zigzag, the Abrams X, the blue. Nice little logoing they have. Really nice model, nice results. Very, very, very satisfied with this overall build. So anyway, this is the model. Highly recommended. It was a fun project. It would look just as nice if you did it in either a European or a desert pattern. It would really stand out nicely. So anyway, everyone, take care. You can get me on Facebook. You can get me in the text of the things. Please like, subscribe. Everyone take care. More reviews and models coming very soon. Have a happy New Year, everyone. Take care. And as I said, happy modeling. Bye-bye.